Despicable Me 4 has a ton of fantastic antagonists in a franchise that stars a villain who becomes a hero. But there is no one quite like Vector. The last time we heard from him, he was still on Mars, and it's been a long time since. So, is he still there, or did he escape?
Girls, welcome back to the fortress of Vectortude.
Many fans of the first Despicable Me movie have been curious about what happened to Vector, the main antagonist. Nothing is known about the fate of Vector, the thief of the first Despicable Me movie who had been competing with Gru for the moon. Even though the series has since added several villains, including El Macho in Despicable Me 2, Scarlet Overkill in Minions, and Bell Bottom in Minions: Rise of Gru, Vector is still undoubtedly the most known and intriguing foe to face Gru and his minions. For a large portion of the film, he's able to frustrate Gru at every turn while sporting an orange tracksuit, a piranha gun, and a squid launcher. In the first Despicable Me film, Vector is introduced as the new greatest villain ever, after he successfully steals the Pyramid of Giza without anyone noticing. He's also viewed as the next big thing in the villain community. Vector manages to take the moon from Gru once he learns of his plans to use a shrink ray to take it. Gru takes in 3 girls as part of his revenge plan, using them to divert Vector's attention with cookies while he and the minions manage to retrieve the shrink ray. It's later revealed that he is the son of Mr. Perkins, the director of Bank of Evil, who keeps refusing Gru loans so he can complete the heist. In the climax, Gru manages to steal and reduce the size of the moon. But when he lands on the Earth, he finds out that Vector has taken Margot, Agnes, and Edith, his adoptive daughters, hostage to gain control of the moon. Dr. Nefario and the minions discover that the effects of the shrink ray are only brief as Vector tries to flee with the moon and the girls, and the moon grows back and launches back into orbit. Gru breaks through the ship's door to save Edith and Agnes. Margot is about to jump when Vector grabs hold of her and tries to use his piranha gun to attack Gru. However, the moon collides with Vector, saving Margot. The moon starts to roll around, defenseless Vector stuck to it. When the sphere takes a switch, the vehicle's rocket engine ignites, causing it to float straight up. Eventually, the vehicle breaks, leaving Vector stuck on the moon. But since then, what has happened to the supervillain? Vector hasn't appeared in any more films in the franchise, despite the conclusion of Despicable Me proving that he was alive on the moon. Later in the series, the Vector Despicable Me arc receives a pseudo conclusion. Gru is granted access to the files the AVL has on other villains they have tracked down over the years after being introduced to them in Despicable Me 2. These files, which are included in the Despicable Me 3 Blu-ray extras, appear to confirm Vector's previous report that he is stuck on the moon.
Oh, poop.
The file also claims that he can still be seen with a telescope. It appears as though Vector is making some sort of living on the moon, though it's unclear how. With the release of Mooned, a short film by Illumination in 2023, Vector's story was officially continued. The short film, which is attached to the theatrical release of Migration, seems to pick up right after the events of Despicable Me rather than carrying Vector's story forward 13 years. In Mooned, Jason Segel reprises his role as Vector, who is trying to get off the moon and land on Earth. In his search for new routes home, he also runs into the minions again. After several different strategies to escape the moon, the villain from Despicable Me eventually realizes he can do so by leaping a great distance. At first, it appears to be working until he realizes that the minion in his path is the same one that drank the anti-gravity serum. The minion is not listening to Vector's request for him to move aside, and as a result, the two collide, sending Vector hurtling back to the moon's surface. Following his fruitless attempt, Vector looks through the settings for his suit and finds the bubble suit option. He activates his warm-up suit just as the minions reappear, carrying the rock Vector threw earlier, realizing he can use it to float back to Earth. Unfortunately, Vector's suit overblows, bursting apart as he crashes into a big rock over and over again. After failing twice, Vector decides it's time to use his serious stuff, or his limb stretch 2.0 with his limbs extended. He proceeds to use them like a slingshot to wrap around two nearby rocks. Then, just before launching himself, he bids the moon a mocking farewell. His attempt fails yet again. Vector tries to break free once more by using a moon buggy he discovered on a ramp-like structure, but before he can accomplish this, he runs into a rock, which makes him wonder who thought the moon was designed so badly. With a knife and a drill, he makes futile attempts to remove the rock, causing the buggy to vibrate and move a little bit forward. With the help of a laser gun, Vector eventually manages to destroy the rock, but not before the buggy drives down the ramp and repeatedly crushes Vector. After struggling to reach the same satellite he had attempted to use earlier in the loss, an injured Vector discovers he can destruct his own ship by using rockets from his suit to attach to the satellite. The minion appears out of nowhere and tries to tell Vector that Gru's airship is bringing some more minions to help them. But because he's unable to understand, Vector believes the minion is requesting to travel back to Earth with him on his ship. Vector ignores the minion's attempts to clarify that this is not what he meant to say, and just then Gru's airship and the other minions show up. Vector is too preoccupied with building his own rocket to hear their attempts to call him, so they take off and leave him behind. Likewise, Vector completes his spacecraft and, after fastening his suit to it, fires the rocket, sending him hurtling out of the moon. Initially, it appears to be functioning properly, but Vector quickly realizes that Gru's airship is in his way, which causes a crash. After all is said and done, he succeeds in leaving Earth's moon, but he never returns to his home planet. Given that the franchise had previously implied Vector was still on the moon and could be seen there, this revelation does raise some questions. It's possible, though, that those files are not as current as previously thought. After Moon concludes, Vector finds himself abandoned on Mars without any clothes or gear to save his underwear. Then a little green Martian shows up and speaks to Vector in a language that is beyond his comprehension. The Martian is forced to flee by Vector, and then he makes friends with the minions, whose bodies are indestructible, who survived the crash. To Vector's dismay, the minions accept the Martian's offer to ride back to Earth on his UFO, and they all bid him farewell. Like at the beginning, Vector is left disappointed and stranded on Mars when they take off for Earth without him. Additionally, even if someone went looking for Vector on the moon, it's unlikely they would have discovered that he had moved to Mars. Moon functions as an epilogue to the first Despicable Me and might even be the definitive conclusion to the villain's tale in the franchise, as opposed to perhaps being used to set up Vector's return in Despicable Me 4. Vector makes a brief appearance in the epilogue of Despicable Me 4. It's evident that he managed to return to Earth, even though those details of his escape from Mars are unknown. He's shown singing alongside other anti-villain league captives. Although the release date of Despicable Me 5 is still unknown, fans are still speculating and hoping that Vector will make a comeback as the main antagonist in any prospective future movies. The character is still well liked, as evidenced by numerous appearances in special episodes, and he may make another appearance in later matters. Vector and Gru's rivalry might flare up again after he returns. Gru, the minions, and even the girls would have to deal with new tensions and difficulties as a result. Gru had a deserving adversary in Vector, who repeatedly outwitted him. Although Vector is still a popular character and has appeared in several supporting roles, the franchise's focus on developing new characters and plots suggests that a major comeback of Vector as a primary antagonist is unlikely. While cameos and side roles continue to entertain fans, the main plot moves past his character. Nevertheless, some fans can't help but wish Vector would make a comeback as the primary antagonist of a later picture in the cherished animated series. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.